What's up, pet people? My name is Lexia and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be going over my 3 most recommended and most used substrates, and I'm going to be giving you the pros and cons so you can decide if you like them for your snake. Basically, I'm going to list the 3 in order of the ones that I like the most to least, and then I'm also going to give you a list of substrates that I don't recommend. Now, I am going to say really quick, I'm not a professional. These are all opinion-based statements that I'm making from what I've noticed, what I've researched, and just what's worked for me and my snakes. Also, I'm going to be going over, as I said, some substrates I don't recommend, and I'm only going to be touching base on substrates that I have used. So if I mention something in this video, it is a substrate that I have tested with my snakes, or that I have used in their enclosures, or that I have tested before putting them in the enclosure, because I have been known to do that before with some of them, just to ensure that I like it, it holds humidity, it doesn't mold, things like that. So yeah, please keep watching. Alright, so starting off with my first 2 favorite substrates, they're actually tied for number 1 in my mind, but I can't decide which one I like more due to the fact that they are used in such different ways. First off, what I'm going to go over is my favorite dryer substrate, and that is Aspen Snake Bedding. Let me turn this around. As you can see, I've pretty much used this entire bag. This bag was a 26.4 liter or 24 dry quart bag. I have 2 more bags of this size in my garage, so it's easy to say that I definitely use this very often. First thing I want to mention about Aspen Bedding that is a big plus for me is that it is very low on dust. Particularly the Med brand. Other types of Aspen might be a little bit higher on dust levels, and that makes it a little bit harder for me to breathe whenever I am cleaning the enclosures and adding new bedding. So that's definitely something I look for whenever I'm doing substrates or picking out substrates. Another thing I would like to mention about this is that it's very good at absorbing waste from your snake, and it's also very good for spot cleaning. So as far as urine goes and liquid wastes, it definitely absorbs them, and it leaves little to no smell because of the type of substrate it is. It's very porous. It allows for good airflow, and that also means that it's going to be a drier substrate. So it doesn't hold humidity very well due to the fact that it absorbs the liquid and doesn't really retain it. Due to the fact that it doesn't really hold humidity, it makes it a lot easier for tunneling. So this is the substrate that I use for my Western hognose enclosure, as you can see in this little picture right here. Also, if you're wondering about the picture, I did use clay, the Repti clay. I forgot what it's called. I'm going to insert that right here. I used that to create his background. I'll do a video on his tank and how to set up a Western hognose tank at a later date. But yeah, I use Aspen Bedding for my hognose due to the fact that they are a burrowing snake, and Aspen Bedding is very good for burrowing snakes due to holding tunnel formations. I also have used it on my milk snakes before, but because they're Honduran milk snakes, they do require a little bit higher humidity than normal milk snakes. So it's just it depends on how their shedding's going, what they're how they're doing with their shedding and stuff like that. Personally, I've had 0 issues with my snakes shedding with Aspen Bedding. I've actually had 0 issues at all with Aspen Bedding. It hasn't shown to mold whenever I have had liquid spills or their water dish overflows, so that's definitely a plus as well. The second substrate that I'm going to go over here. Okay, I have 2 bags of it. So here's my big bag. This is my 24 dry quart bag of forest floor Cypress mulch, and then I have a little bag. I have 2 more big bags in my garage and 1 little bag. The reason I have so much bedding on hand is because I am building another enclosure for you guys to show you at a later date, and B, I also use Cypress mulch for my turtles. I make a mixture for them, but that'll be another video. Anyway, going into Cypress mulch, the best thing I have to say about this is that it holds humidity so well. If you're needing a higher humidity, or if you're needing to maintain a certain humidity, such as around shedding time for milk snakes, I definitely recommend Force Floor 100% Cypress mulch. I do want to note really quick that you need to make sure it is 100% Cypress mulch, because of the fact that if it is a pine or if it is a cedar mixture, it will have aromatics in it, and it is known to give your reptiles, particularly snakes, respiratory infections, which is just a long process that's really hard to take care of. It's really hard to get rid of. It's really hard to identify until it's too late, and it becomes a very expensive problem to have. So I just do not recommend at all 110% absolutely no pine and no cedar mulches of any kind. Now, going back to the 100% Cypress mulch, one thing I do want to say about it is that it is not good for tunnels. So it can be dried out. If you don't spray it, it can be dried out, and it will not have any issues with if you need it for a drier enclosure. But it will not be able to hold tunnel shape due to the fact that it is a very compact and finely ground wood substrate. And another thing about the holding humidity and the drying out, because it can dry out, and if you don't mist it, it will have the ability to completely dry out. Cypress mulch, to my knowledge and to my research and to everything I've seen, does not mold, which is so amazing, because a lot of high humidity substrates have been known to mold. And last thing I want to say about it is, I'm all reading it down here, the back, I was looking at it. But the last thing I would like to say about Cypress mulch is that it is very natural looking. So if you're going for a naturalistic vivarium, I would recommend it. As you can see, I use this substrate in my milk snake enclosure. This is the vision cage I did a video on before. I'll do a video on setting that up. I have all of that filmed, I just haven't put it together yet, so I'll be doing that video soon, and then I'm going to be doing another vision enclosure video, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, the types of snakes that I would recommend this for is milk snakes or ball pythons or any mild to higher humidity snakes. So I do not recommend this for hognoses, Kenyan sand boas. I don't recommend this for any of those type of snakes that require a drier climate. It can be used for like corn snakes and garter snakes, but I would recommend the aspen bedding for those. It just depends on the different subspecies of that snake that you have. That's all I gotta say about that. So the third one I'm going to go over that I don't actually have with me right now, I need to order some more of that, is Coco Husk. That's my third favorite substrate. Coco Husk, gotta insert a picture here since I don't have it with me. Coco Husk is very great for higher humidity enclosures. I recommend you using it over the Repti bark. Repti bark and Coco Husk are very similar in their size and shape, but as far as what they're made out of, obviously Coco Husk is ground coconut husks, and Repti bark is made out of fir tree fiber, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I'll edit that up here. But the coconut husk I have used before in the ball python enclosure of the ball python I take care of at my school. Also going to be doing a video on that, so stay tuned. But the Coco Husk, I've learned, is mold resistant to a point. So it's mold resistant as long as once you mist down the substrate, you like mix it pretty thoroughly and don't let it sit still. I have seen it mold some before though, so it's not completely mold resistant, and that's why it falls down to number 3 for me. Because while it does hold humidity, if it's at too high of humidity with too high of a temperature for a certain amount of time, it will begin to mold. And that's not very good considering most high humidity enclosures have a very low ventilation rate. So definitely that's number 3. Another great thing about Coco Husk that I want to recommend or note to you guys is that because it's in little squares, it is extremely hard for your snake to swallow, and rates of impaction are very low, which I did not touch point on with the other two. It's very hard for small snakes to swallow Cypress mulch, and it's very low impaction rate due to being an all-natural product. If you do have impaction, then I recommend going to your vet, or there's some other ways you can get rid of that, but it's very low chances. I've never had it happen with either Aspen Bedding or Cypress mulch in any of my snakes, so it's just another little point. The fourth substrate I'm going to go over is my least favorite, but most commonly used that I've seen recently. As everyone knows, there is Coco Husk, like I just talked about, and then there's coconut fiber. Loose coconut fiber, most common Eco Earth, I do not recommend for snakes at all, because even though it does hold humidity, it becomes very, very messy very quickly. It's basically mixing dirt is what it's like. If it gets wet, it can stick to your snake, it can stick to you, it can stick to everything. It has high impaction rates due to sticking to everything, and snakes have a hard time passing dirt. They have a hard time passing dirt. Another thing I want to say about Eco Earth is because it's not really it's dirt. I don't know what else to say other than that. Eco Earth is not good for tunneling snakes. It's okay for other snakes. It does hold humidity relatively well, but I've seen mushrooms grow in it before, which is very weird for a substrate. It can hold mold unless you mix it whenever you spray it down. I have had so many issues with Eco Earth, and if it's not on like the background of a bioactive substrate or the ABG mixture you're making on your own, or if it's not like in a mixture of some type, I do not recommend Eco Earth for snakes. As I said, I used Forest Floor for my turtles as well, and I will mix Forest Floor with Eco Earth just in their little home. There's like a little human home that I have in their enclosures, and it just makes it easier to hold humidity in those areas, but overall I do not recommend it for snakes at all. And those are the only ones that I've used and tested personally. As I said, my number ones are Cypress mulch and Aspen Bedding. I have so much of both of those substrates. And then third would be the Coco Husk, which I just realized again that I do not have. And then last of all the substrates I've tried is the Eco Earth. So that's what I have to say about those. And oh, one more thing. If you do use Eco Earth as a substrate, it does not absorb at all. So if your snake uses the bathroom, it will end up pooling into the substrate itself. At least this is what I have found near the bottom. So you will have like a little muddy clump underneath all the other substrate. And then it also is really hard for spot cleaning. The others are relatively easy for spot cleaning due to the fact that they are in shreds or chunks. You can just take a little substrate scoop, which I don't know why I do not have mine here, but you can take a little substrate scoop and scoop up the messes that your reptiles make, whereas with Eco Earth, it just everything sticks to everything, and it's very dusty, and when it's dry it's very dusty, and when it's wet it's very muddy, and it's just, I do not recommend Eco Earth. I'm sorry. Maybe for geckos, but that's another video I'll be doing. Right now for snakes, don't use Eco Earth, don't use pine mulch, and don't use cedar mulch. That's the three that I recommend 100% don't use out of the ones that I know of and have tried. And then the three most recommended, again, in order, one last time: Aspen Bedding. Come on, guys. No one's gonna say it? Okay. Cypress mulch, and then Coco Husk. So yeah, that's what I have to say about those. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something about this, a little bit about each of the substrates, and have in your mind which one they would be good for. Hopefully you liked the video overall, and if not, please still like and subscribe, because hey, you already watched it, why not? Anyway, I hope you guys come back for next week's video, and I hope you enjoyed this week's video. As I said, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Thank you!